The clock is at 0, and another Cougar game is in the books.
Beats himself, Roddy, straight ahead. That's why he wears 47. Fullback mentality for the score on 3rd and 3. Bill Branson passes, picked off. It's coming back the other way. The Mooney with the INT. It's the field goal, and it is good by Barron. That's his 19th straight made field goal. That extends his school record. Makes it 9-0 on 3rd and 12. Backside heat, fumbled it, it came out. Ball's on the ground. Cougars recover at the 5. Big hit by Jack Kelly. He made one earlier from 36, and each one that he makes adds to his school record. It's 12-0 for the Cougars. Branson has yet to find his rhythm passing the football. Coaches want him to turn it loose. He completes it, and that's going to be a safety. It'll be 2 points for the Cougars. Satuala was the first one to get there, and yes, it's a safety. On the nice cutback. Touchdown Cougars. Moa. McKinney from 26 yards out. And finally, Stanford on the scoreboard comes in. He's already made 3 tonight. This one coming from 23 yards. Light work for Will Farron, and the beat goes on. Well, Branson into traffic and picked. It's coming back. Satuala with the INT.
All the reaction, then the post-game interviews. The Cougar post-game show begins now on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome into the Cougar post-game show. I'm Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles with me as we get ready to break down 27-3 victory for BYU, starting off the season 2-0. Wasn't as pretty as it was last week, Alex, but a win is a win nonetheless.
A win is a win. And I think you'll absolutely take the win, obviously. But there was a lot of goods and a lot of positive that I think you can take away for this if you're BYU, but there's also a lot of not so positive that you can take away from this if you're BYU.
You got to start with the red zone efficiency or lack thereof. Good for Will Farron, and I'm sure BYU's happy that they've got a kicker that's dang near automatic, right? School record continues to extend. I'm starting to lose track of what it is. I believe was it 22 that he finished with? It's 22 straight, I think.
I believe so, yes.
And so, it's nice to have a reliable kicker, but when you are down in the red zone, I hate field goals in the red zone. You should be converting those into touchdowns. So I'm sure that's where it's going to start, and that's the conversation of this game. But nonetheless, a win is a win, and you're 2-0 with the freshman quarterback. And, Bear did some great things, and he did some things that we didn't really see last week. I thought he did a good job of pushing the ball down the field. That was my biggest critique last week. That was most people's biggest critique, right, is let's have Bear push it down the field a little more. And I think they did that a little bit today. Still some errant throws, but what can you expect?
Yeah, no, and we'll start there. Bear Bachmeier, 17 for 27 on the night, 175 yards. No touchdowns through the air, but you do add the rushing touchdown that he did get. So you do get a rushing touchdown from Bear Bachmeier in this one. Yes, the ball was pushed down more, and I thought that there was, a lot of plays where he connected well with guys like Chase Roberts, and with guys like Carson Ryan. We talked about getting the veterans involved. We talked about getting these guys, more yards, getting them more receptions. Chase Roberts ends this one with 5 receptions for 84. Carson Ryan has 3 for 36. So I mean, you are getting those veteran players involved. If you for Bear Bachmeier, but there was still a couple of errant passes like you mentioned, but I think that's just coming with the growing pain of starting a true freshman quarterback.
27 passing attempts for Bear, and I like that number. I think that is it's a good. I mean, that's more around what you're going to see in a typical game. And I honestly thought that this Stanford team really pushed BYU defensively. I think. Their defense pushed BYU's offense, right? I think they really had fits at times. And LJ Martin had a great game, 18 carries for 110 yards. But outside of that, it's not like BYU had anything easy tonight. There were a lot of mistakes, and there were a lot of third downs. And You're going to learn a lot if as Bear Bachmeyer, and the teammates are going to learn as well. And I think tonight we saw maybe a lack of chemistry, right? That you're maybe going to get. And I don't like, I'm thinking of the Chase Roberts drop on the goal line. Like, I don't know
Yes.
if that is a lack of chemistry because it's an easy pitch and catch. Is it just, a drop that's going to happen sometimes? But little things like that, it's like, oh, it's a lot of ugly all at
It's
once.
just weird. Yeah, it's just weird because it's uncharacteristic from Chase Roberts, right?
Yeah.
I think you're used to, and if you're a BYU fan and you watch Chase Roberts throughout all these years, you're used to making him those. You're used to him making those plays, and so it's uncharacteristic for Roberts. But I do feel like that's just something that hopefully BYU can get sorted out with a little bit more chemistry and a little bit more time with Bear Bachmeyer.
Yeah. Overall though, I mean, again, let's look at the final number, 17 of 27, 175 through the air for Bear. And I think he did hit on some bigger passes, right? Obviously he had a deep ball to Chase Roberts that went for 41, 25-yard pass to Carson Ryan. I liked JoJo Phillips getting more involved today, 3 catches for 30 yards, and he did exit the game. Right after halftime, they said he went to the locker room as they were coming out of the half. So we will await to hear what's up with JoJo, but I liked seeing him get involved. And then Parker Kingston contributed 3 catches for 7 yards. But yeah, I think this was a legit defense especially compared to Portland State last week. Like, these guys actually pushed BYU.
And you know what, man, they pressured
Yeah.
Bachmeyer.
Yes, I'm looking. Tafiti was who it was. Their edge rusher was all over, and I think that leads to what I wanted to hit next was the offensive line.
The offensive line. I mean, you're still missing a big piece of the offensive line, right?
Waylon Lapuahu, yeah.
Waylon Lapuahu is still out, and I think once he comes back, I think you'll see better offensive line play from BYU. But tonight it didn't. Tonight it struggled. There was a couple of blitzes and a couple of times where I can specifically remember a Stanford player kind of just running through untouched.
Yeah,
and that's a red flag. That's alarming for an O-line who's usually typically pretty solid.
And there was a lot of question marks. I know that the tackle spots were solidified right there towards the end of camp. The interior has some movement as well at the center position after Connor Pay's moving on. But you're right. It hurts not having Waylon, who's supposed to be one of your leaders along that front 5. But my biggest thing was it really felt like Bear was affected by the pressure. And it's to be expected from a freshman, right?
Yes.
Most quarterbacks, I mean, it takes a really special player to not be affected by pressure. But it felt like there were a lot of times where maybe the pocket collapsed a little quicker than Bear was expecting. And it just really felt like he was caught off guard several times by just boom, pocket collapsing right on him. And he took some sacks. I was disappointed, and he didn't really run as much as I would have hoped as far as escaping from pressure. He didn't really use his legs to get out of sticky situations. And I know he had the rushing touchdown, right? I don't want to diminish that because that was an awesome play, right? Trucking a linebacker like you're freaking Josh Allen. That's great. But I think that he needs to do a better job at sensing the pressure. And I didn't think that he'd be feeling the pressure tonight as much as he did.
There was a couple of times, I think last week against Portland State, we saw him tuck and run. And he made the right read when tucking and running because there was a hole for him. There was a gap for him. I think tonight he tried to force it a little bit too much, especially when the pocket had collapsed and when it was time for him to be quick on his feet and to make a play real quick. There was a couple times where he was happy to just tuck the ball in and basically run into the pressure. And you see that he had 12 carries with 7 yards in this one. A lot better rushing performance from Bear Bachmeyer last week. This week, I think it struggled against a tough defensive front. It turned out to be a tough defensive front for Stanford.
Getting some social media reaction. If you're listening, if you're watching right now, please drop a comment. Tell us what you think. We used to take calls in the past. doing this live stream. We don't have a way to hook up the phone, but you can comment on YouTube. You can comment on Facebook, on X. We'll go ahead and read some of these reaction. Charles Barnum, he said, I think BYU is going to be great as long as they figure it out in the red zone. I think this is not going to be every week, though. I agree. Yeah, you want 7 in the red zone, not 6 or 3.
Right.
And we got to talk about the 6. That what the heck was that 2-point conversion? what the flip was that play call? Like, I don't know what Aaron Roderick was thinking. I don't know why you go for 2 there in the first place, and then to line up with that. I've seen that formation, and it's slipping my mind what they call it. There's a name for it. I have never seen that work ever, where you've got like the 2 or 3 linemen and then everybody else is spread out across the field. I've yet to see that ever work, and I don't know what the thought process was.
I understand BYU has the tendency in the knack to want to kind of have these trickeration, right? To have some trickeration and to create plays in that way. But I feel like in that case, you take the PAT, right? Make it a 7-0 game. It's still early.
Yeah.
I mean, to Carson Ryan's credit, he almost got it, but
yeah,
he didn't. He didn't, and you take the safe 7 and you move on.
Flipping the script, chiming in. It takes a special freshman to not feel the pressure, like Isaac Wilson. ... Oh wait. Listen, I get it. It's fun to poke fun. Yeah. I don't really know what to say. Yeah, Bear definitely was feeling the pressure tonight.
He did.
And if you're BYU, you hope that doesn't continue all season. And that's something that's going to get worked on. I think the protection, Bear got rocked on there was one play where the left tackle, I think it was that Tafiti player on Stanford, just came in unchecked. And I don't know if the protection was just not on the same page, but he was a free runner right at Bear, and he took a big hit. So I think this was a bit of a wake-up call for BYU after absolutely dominating Portland State 69-0 last week. This was a legit football team, and they're not a great football team. Don't confuse those two words. And I don't think there was ever really a threat of Stanford making this a game. I think it was as close as it was, close, right, in quotation marks, because of BYU's own accord. But I think there were things that Stanford did to kind of throw BYU off of their rhythm.
Yeah. Question for you, Christian. What is more concerning? Is it the fact that Stanford was able to easily get to Bear Bachmeier at times and bring that pressure? Or is it the third down efficiency for BYU in this game? 5 for 14, and most of those in the red zone.
The red zone is really what worries me. That is very uncharacteristic of a BYU offense, at least over the last couple of years. And again, it's great to have Will Ferrin as a safety net. But with what you've got going on with your quarterback situation, anytime you are near the end zone, you need to come away with 7, because frankly, you don't know the next time you're going to be down there. And so I think that would be, and maybe they go hand in hand, right, as far as the pressure and the third down efficiency and in the red zone. But there are just little things, like, again, that Chase Roberts drop. Like, if you catch that, you're in the end zone and you have a touchdown there instead of a field goal. There are wrinkles that can be worked out, right? And some of it could be growing pains from Bear, and some of it could be like, you've got this veteran offense that is mature and ready to play at a high level. And then you've got the freshman quarterback that's getting up to speed as fast as possible. So yeah, there are going to be some inconsistencies there, but overall, I mean, again, I don't want to make it sound like BYU played poorly, right? You win 27-3. That's a very comfortable win. But I think it was a little, it was sloppy.
It was sloppy. And I think you look at the third down efficiency for BYU, and I think it just hurts a little bit more considering the fact of how those plays were set up, right? The defense coming up, they make big turnovers, whether it was, the fumble recovery, an INT return for a big play or for a big return. it's you set yourself up, the offense up in such a perfect position to go and score those points. And instead you're settling for field goals, and instead you're settling for not getting in the end zone because most of the times you couldn't convert in short field situations. I think that is probably the most concerning thing for me coming out of this game, is the fact that you had the short field, your defense made the plays, but you weren't able to capitalize on those. And I think that's what's going to sting BYU a little bit heading into this bye week.
And it's nice having the bye right now. And we talked about this, right? Like with having a freshman quarterback, you get 2 relatively easy games to start the year. Then you have a bye week to really assess what's going on before you have a true test on the road at East Carolina. And then you'll start Big 12 play after that. So, and looking at Stanford again, one of the other storylines was they had a week 0 game, and then they had a bye week before this. They didn't play a week 1 game, so they essentially had 2 weeks to prepare for BYU. That's going to make it hard on BYU's offense to prepare for Stanford's defense, because they talked about all freaking broadcast 17 new transfers for Stanford. Like, how crazy. Nobody knows what the Stanford team is. And that makes it hard for BYU to prepare. So it's good to have a bye week now. It's good for Bear to dip his toes in the water and then take a step back and say, okay, how hot is it? And I think that Roderick and Kalani are ready to help him along.
4 drives in the first half alone where BYU started at midfield or in Stanford territory that ended up in those 4 drives, you only score 6 points. The missed opportunities, again, I think is probably the biggest thing in this game, because you miss those opportunities against Stanford. You have the opportunity, I guess, to come back and make up for it. But imagine if this is a Big 12 team, a competitor, or someone who's competing for a Big 12 championship alongside BYU, and you miss those opportunities. Right? It's so crucial for BYU to be able to convert and be able to take it into the end zone, and that the missed opportunities, I think, is just what hurts the most.
I'm thinking of Baylor right now. They won today against SMU in overtime, 48-45. And it's like, if you're BYU, you need to be able to put up 48 points. And obviously this is a good defense, and you're going to trust them to hold opponents to hopefully less than that. But there are going to be weeks where BYU needs to score a lot of points to win. That's just college football. And honestly, tonight it was like, they've got a lot of room to grow before I would feel comfortable saying that this team can put up 40 points against a Big 12 team.
Right.
So we'll see. I wanted to get to something else, another thing that really worried me from this game, and that's Parker Kingston.
Yes.
He fumbled another punt today. Last week he muffed a punt. And then today he caught it and then fumbled it as he was running. Had a couple drops or fumbles last year on punts. And we saw Tiger Bachmeier come in and take some punt returns. And I know Tiger got some reps last week as a punt returner as well. I think that they are comfortable throwing either of them out there. And I know that Kingston has made some special plays as a punt returner, but it's getting to a point where it's like, you can't be doing that at this point. You're considered a veteran at this on this team. And if we know one thing about the local schools here, they hate turnovers, man. And, when you've got a defense that's forcing punts the way that this defense can, the last thing you want is your punt returner giving the ball right back.
100%. The good thing, though, to kind of flip that into a positive, I think because of Parker Kingston fumbling the punt, you switch things up a little bit in the punt return and in the kick return. And you see big returns from Cody Hagan. You see a big return from Cody Hagan, as well as the former Stanford Cardinal himself, Tiger Bachmeier.
Yeah, Tiger had a really nice punt return.
Yeah, comes out, and I think it was a 44-yard punt return for Tiger Bachmeier in this one as well. So, I mean, the positive, I guess you can say, for this is you have guys who can step in and continue to be electric on special teams. Mm-hmm. Cody Hagan showed it off tonight. Tiger Bachmeier showed it off tonight. That, I think, obviously, a best case scenario, you would want Parker Kingston to come back and be the electric returner that he was last season, that
Yeah.
he can be, right? But if for some reason something needs to shake up in the special teams, like in situations like tonight where Parker Kingston just isn't up to the standard that we know Parker Kingston can be, you do have options to turn to, like a Cody Hagan, like a Tiger Bachmeier.
Yeah, and that helps the decision be easier, right? If you are, wanting to make a change as a coach, sometimes it can be really hard. Like, oh, we can't keep this dude in there because he keeps fumbling the freaking ball, but we don't have anybody else to turn to. That's a lot different than saying, oh, yeah, Parker has done some really good things, but unfortunately, he's not our best option because we've got 2 or 3 other guys that are also really good. And, I'm not saying that Parker Kingston's never going to return a punt again, but it is good to kind of have that iron sharpens iron, get that kind of mentally in his head. Like, if you're going to keep doing this, Tiger's going to get some reps back there, and you're not going to get the opportunities that you once may have had. So
100%.
That's going to be something to keep an eye on over the next couple weeks. And again, with the bye week, I bet Parker Kingston's going to catch 1,000 punts over the next week. Maybe 2,000. So we'll see what kind of work goes in there. But lastly, on the offense, I want to switch gears and just talk about LJ Martin. I know we brought up his numbers, over 100 yards today, 110 to be exact. He had a long 47-yard run that set up a nice drive for BYU. No touchdowns on the day for LJ, but really 6.1 yards per. There were some questions after the Portland State game, like, is LJ Martin really a stud, or does Portland State just suck at tackling? But I think, again, we mentioned Stanford is a bit of a better defense than Portland State. They're big boys, right? We can agree on that. And they still have trouble with LJ. He is a grown man, and he is very strong. Again, not quite the top end speed to hit those home run plays. Getting in the open field on that 47-yard run, you hope that'd be a 60-something yard touchdown. But he is the type of back that is built for the Big 12, and he is going to wear down opposing defenses all game.
I think, that 47-yard run from LJ Martin, I think, really sparked the offense to begin with. Because if you remember, Christian, the first drive that BYU's offense went out there, they struggled to move the ball. And they finally put the ball into LJ Martin's hands. He goes off for the big run. And I feel like that really finally got BYU's offense going. And so it's nice to know that when you're in a situation like that, when you're unable to get the offense to start clicking the way that maybe you want it to be clicking, that it's nice to know that you can turn to your backfield and rely on a guy like LJ Martin to potentially break away for that big run. If maybe LJ Martin just had a little bit more speed, maybe he breaks that and it takes it all the way. But regardless, I think in that situation, you're more than happy to take a huge 47 explosive run from LJ Martin.
Right. And he's a dude that, we've talked so much about. We want to see him healthy. We've got to see him up around 20 touches a game. And again, 18 carries tonight. I can't remember. I'm looking to see if he had any receptions. I don't think he had 1 catch for 8 yards. So 19 total touches for LJ. That's right around where you've got to see him at. That's a full workload for him, and that's great. And he's turning that into, if you're having 20 touches for over 100 total yards, that's over 5 yards a touch, and that's great for a running back. That's phenomenal. So I think that he is right now the best part of BYU's offense. And we got to talk about Sione Moa too, because he had a great game. 7 carries for 29 yards, and then he had a touchdown. Sorry, hit the table. But no, I think BYU's rushing attack outside of Bear Bachmeier today was really encouraging.
Really encouraging. I think overall, just going out there and, answering your big win against Portland State by going another 332 yards on offense. I think, it bodes well, right? Because now you can head into the bye week and work out on the kinks on offense, whether that be the third down conversions, whether that be your red zone offense. You have that opportunity now to head into the bye week. You get an extra week to not only rest up and hopefully get some guys back. There was a lot of guys, you mentioned JoJo Phillips earlier, that left the game. There was a couple player. There was a player on defense who also left the game, and then plus you have guys like Waylon Lapuahu, Justin Kirkland, who are still out. So you allow yourself that opportunity to not only get healthy, but you allow yourself the opportunity to work out some of those kinks that we saw on offense tonight before you head on the road to East Carolina.
Yeah, Puha was the D lineman.
Puha, thank you.
And I'm not sure if he ever came back in the game. We'll await an update. Kalani, we're still awaiting Kalani Sitake. He hasn't sat down yet. We've got some eyes in the press conference room at BYU letting us know when we're going to get Coach Sitake and then the players. And I'm curious to see what Sitake has to say. He was feeling it before the game, man. They were showing his dance moves. That's cool, man. He's got some MC Hammer swag. He busted out the robot today. I think it was great.
Again, it's something we talked about last week a little bit, right? It's something that you want to see as a BYU fan, because it's a different story, right? If your true freshman quarterback was seeing that your head coach was maybe a little bit worried or a little bit anxious heading into a game, right? Considering that you are a true freshman quarterback and you're coming out to lead this offense, but the fact that they're loose, the fact that they're dancing in the pregame and keeping high spirits and good vibes, I think it bodes well to keep your quarterback, your young quarterback, in good spirits as well.
All right. Before we go to break, I'm going to hit you with this. What's another name for a cougar, right? There's another name for cougars that it's like interchangeable.
A puma?
Another one. Mountain lion, right? Mountain lion.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So we've got mountain lions, tigers, and bears.
Yeah.
Get it?
Yep.
Get it? You see what I'm doing?
I see what you're doing. It's gonna be an all animal offense, right?
Nate's not gonna let me on here next week.
Maybe not, but we'll see.
Oh man, let us know your thoughts on this game. We've got a lot of comments coming in. We read through a couple. Looks like Kalani Sitake just started, so hopefully we can get that flipped around as soon as we can. But yeah, let us know your thoughts on YouTube, on Facebook, on X. If you're listening on the radio, go find us. YouTube, Facebook, X, KSL Sports is the account, and we're live right now. Let us know your comments. We want to get some interaction from anybody listening or watching. So James Willis chiming in. The untouched pressure was on Bear. He needs to direct the blocking running back to the correct side. That's a good comment. The running back, I can't remember if it was Martin or Moa, but he was on the right side of Bear, and Bear got hit from his left side, his blind side. So
yep.
A-Rod was talking during the week about Bear Bachmeier having a lot of freedom at the line of scrimmage to really check plays and direct things. So I wonder if that is a coaching point. Like, hey, you got to slide your running back protection to the left side. If you know your line is going to be sliding to the right based off of the defensive front, you've got to be able to move your running back over to your left so he can cover that up and get a chip or something there. So
yeah, again, I think that's just something that's going to come with time. It's part of the growing pains of going through a true freshman quarterback. As he continues to get more in-game experience, as he continues to continue to grow and develop as the in-game situations, I think that will hopefully come with time for Bear Bachmeier.
Any more thoughts on offense before we take a break?
Offensively, no, I think that pretty much wraps it up. The biggest thing for me, I think at the end of the day, it's just the missed opportunities. You have to be more efficient on third down. You have to be more efficient in the red zone, and that's truly what sticks out to me. Yes, Will Ferrin is a great kicker. It's great to see him come out and continue to build on his record, but at the end of the day, you need those touchdowns.
All right, we've got to take a break because part of this is on the radio, so we'll take a quick about 3-minute break. Coming up next on the other side, we're going to talk BYU defense. Another great performance tonight, at least through the first 3 quarters. We will hit on that next. Stick with us. It's the Cougar Postgame Show. I'm Christian Esparza. Alex Napoles with me. Cougar Postgame Show brought to you by KSL Sports.
listening to the Cougar Postgame Show on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Cougar Postgame Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles with me. Join us as we break down this 27-3 BYU win over Stanford. We just spent some time, Alex, talking about BYU's offense. Slow, a little sloppy out of the gates, and the week 2 for performance for Bear Bachmeier in this offense. But let's talk defense, man. 3 points allowed over the first 2 games for BYU. I was hoping they'd get the double shutout, but 3 points, still a very good outing for what continues to be a dominant defense.
Hey, man, they still haven't allowed a touchdown. 2 games, no touchdowns. That's impressive. And the defense, the defense side of things is honestly what I'm excited to talk about for BYU, because they looked incredible, man.
For 3 quarters.
Yes. I think, in a game where your offense isn't necessarily punching the ball into the end zone, right? Where you're stalling out drives, you're having to settle for kicks. You can count on this BYU defense to continue to put the pressure on quarterbacks. You can count on this BYU defense to come up with big sacks, come up with big interceptions. This BYU defense is lights out, and it's fun to watch them week in, week out.
I bring up the 3 quarters thing. Mitch Harper, our BYU insider, everybody knows Mitch, BYU insider for KSLSports.com. He put out a stat. Stanford finished the night with 161 total yards. 91 of those yards were allowed in the 4th quarter. So that was pretty obvious watching the game, right? All of a sudden, Stanford was able to move the ball. And I don't know what BYU changed with their defense. We'll have to wait for some film breakdown there. But at the end of the day, sealing the game with an interception, and then, you can knee it out on offense. Again, even when you are starting to bend a little bit, you get a pick. You allow the field goal, then the next drive you get a pick. So it was a great performance. And you get a safety tonight. That was awesome. I don't know what the heck Frank Reich was thinking, calling a screen in his own end zone. That was a ridiculous play call, but getting safety is always fun.
Satuala will take that all day, every day, man.
Of course.
I think Satuala, he's a guy that has always piqued my interest, right? He's a local product. Really loved him with the Bountiful Red Hawks. Love that we're able to get him in one of our in-state teams, and we can continue to watch him because he's such a special talent. And Satuala tonight was phenomenal. Came up with the pick, obviously, to end the game, but also had that safety, and I thought it was great recognition from him to kind of shoot the gap at the right time. Saw the screen was coming, shot the gap, took him down inside his own end zone. You get the safety, and that's exactly the type of plays that you expect, and exactly the type of plays that you want from this BYU defense. Because man, oh man, anytime the defense is able to come up with a big play like that, it just fires up that crowd, man. And it's so fun to watch.
Yeah, Jack Kelly had an incredible play, a strip sack. And did he end up coming up with the ball too after it got kicked around for a little bit? I can't remember who came up with that one, but that was a phenomenal play. And then Isaiah Glasker continues to be all around. And then Logan Lutui, I thought, had a phenomenal play. Basically having a free shot at the running back and making a big TFL. But I mean, goodness, all of these linebackers are just freaks of nature in the best way possible. They're making plays, man, and it's incredible.
They're making plays, and I think one of the things that we talked about week 0 on College Football Saturday was the fact that we wanted to see this BYU defense put a little bit more pressure on quarterbacks and generate more sacks, generate more TFLs. And I think tonight they did a great job of that, right? Keanu Tanavasa getting his name on the sack sheet. He gets a sack on the night. Isaiah Glasker with a sack. Jack Kelly with a sack. Those are 3 guys that I think week in and week out you're going to want to see their name pop up on. You're
going to hear those names a lot. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And then TFLs, you end up with 8 on the night. And so I think that's something that, generating sacks last year was something that I thought BYU lacked so far. in this one. They were able to make the plays in the backfield, and I think again that bodes well for your defense.
One takeaway that I had this game. First, I want to say this before I get into takeaways. Let's generate some fan reaction, some listener reaction. Let us know who your favorite defensive player was tonight for BYU. Let us know who you thought stood out in this game. There's a lot of names to pick from, so we want to hear who you thought had the biggest game. But watching Stanford's offense, it was pretty clear to me that if Bear Bachmeier would have stayed at Stanford, he would have started this game. I genuinely believe that.
I think there's probably a good chance.
Their poor quarterback, dude. Gulbranson could not hit the backside of a barn. And again, during the fourth quarter, he randomly woke up and remembered how to throw the football. But then even towards the end of the fourth quarter, he had that weird throwaway where he dropped back and then ran into his offensive line and then just threw the ball on the ground. And I thought Andrew Luck was about to go get some pads and run out on the field and suit up. It was hard to watch at times, and I felt bad for the kid. But I think Stanford's offense is going to be in for a rough season.
Earlier, no, they are. I don't think that they showed too much tonight that really gives or brings confidence. One of the interesting things, we had a Stanford beat writer on JJ and Alex earlier in the week, and one of the things that he brought up and one of the things he highlighted was Gulbranson and poor quarterback play against Hawaii, and I think you continue to see that tonight. A redshirt senior for the Cardinal who continues to struggle. It's interesting because I think that he also brought up that there's guys behind him that in practice allegedly have been showing more, but yet Frank Reich is deciding to stick with Gulbranson. And I mean, to be fair, like you said, he started figuring out later on in the game, and he started moving the ball decently. But still, a quarterback play is super important, and you just didn't see that tonight from Gulbranson.
I started laughing when you were talking. You are a funny guy, Alex, but I wasn't laughing at you. PNWU chiming in on YouTube. He said, my favorite BYU defensive player was the Stanford quarterback.
Gulbranson, man.
Yeah.
Rough
kid,
night.
Dude.
Rough
17 of 32 for 142 yards. And again, most of those yards coming in the fourth quarter. A couple receivers broke free for some chunk plays. Farrell had a nice catch, and then there were some other guys too that I don't know.
Well, and then let's not forget too the Stanford had 3 turnovers in this game, and they all came from Gulbranson. Yeah, you had the 2 interceptions that were thrown by the quarterback, and then you had 2 fumbles from the quarterback. One that he was able to recover. The second one that he did lose for BYU to BYU.
Yeah, the Jack Kelly strip sack, that was awesome. Yeah. Shout out to Uham. I hope I'm saying that correctly. He's chiming in from Guatemala, so that's cool.
Hey,
thanks for listening. That's awesome. BYU fans are worldwide.
They are.
And why wouldn't they be? Because they've got a great team this year, and they're doing it. They're doing it all over, man. This defense continues to impress, and I think obviously Tomapeo had a kind of a breakout last week, blocking the field goal with his face mask, and then Tanavasa gets in the stat sheet today with a sack and a TFL.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts. It starts with that front 7, and then it goes into the back end with the safeties like Tanner Wall and those guys. And it's just the amount of havoc plays that they generate, which would be a sack, a tackle for loss, or a takeaway. That is what's crazy about this BYU defense. That is over these first 2 weeks, it feels like they have a really abnormally high amount of havoc plays. But again, this is a BYU team that led the country in interceptions last year. So they really know how to just control the game and really win it on the defensive side of the ball.
They're ball hawks, man. I trust I trust just about every single player on that on the defensive side of the ball to come up with to make those type of plays, right? To come up with the interceptions, because they're relentless. They're ball hawks. We saw it last year. I think it's amazing that you continue to see that carry over into this season. And because I think that's going to be vital, right? I think one of the reasons why BYU was so successful was because of their ability to turn over the ball, their ability to create those INTs, the ability to create fumbles, and make big plays on defense. You continue that into this season, and I think you set yourself up in pretty good shape.
Yeah, and we'll see, again, these opponents week by week get a little bit tougher each week. So Stanford, a tougher opponent than Portland State, and then you would assume, even if East Carolina might not be necessarily tougher than Stanford, it's a road game, and it's all the way across the country, and that's always tough. So we'll see how BYU looks in a couple weeks. Let's take a quick break here, and then we'll get into head coach Kalani Sitake. He rapped at the podium. We have received the audio. We're going to replay a little bit of that on the other side of this break. So stay with us. If you have some thoughts to share, please let us know in the comments section on Facebook, on YouTube, on X. You can find me at C Esparza Sports. On Twitter, you can find Alex at Napoles Alex. So please let us know your thoughts. We'd love to get into some fan reaction, but we're going to take a break. Stay with us. It's the Cougar Postgame Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You're listening to the Cougar Postgame Show on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back in, everybody. Cougar Postgame Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza. Alex Napoles is right there next to me. This is fun being on video, man. This is great.
People get to see us now. And
unfortunately for them.
And it's fine, man. I feel like we got radio faces, but now our faces are out there for everybody to see. So
And whose face is going to be joining us? We're going to be talking to Alex Curie here in just
absolutely.
a second. Just sent him the link. We'll get his thoughts. Of course, host of JJ and Alex Monday through Friday on the KSL Sports Zone, the afternoon drive time show. Does a great job, and he also hosted the Cougar postgame show for hundreds of years. That it sounds like. But anyways, excited to get Alex's thoughts. And then we'll get into Coach Sataki later. But looking back on this BYU game, Bear Bachmeier threw the ball for 27. He threw the ball 27 times this week after throwing it only 11 last week. And he had 175 total yards, which is not too bad. But a couple things, again, we touched on a little bit of this earlier on in the show. A couple things that worried me, though, looking at Bear and his performance. Number one is it seemed like he didn't tuck it as run it as much as we would have liked to see. Then number two, it felt like he wasn't able to escape and or feel the pressure. The pressure really affected him, I guess I should say.
Yeah, the pressure affected him in this one. And I wouldn't necessarily say he was rattled by it, but it definitely.
I would say that's pretty fair to say sometimes.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I don't want to, I guess criticize this kid too much because he is a true freshman. He's coming into and playing his second collegiate game, and again, I think that we can attribute that to growing pains. Right, this is somebody who is coming in and basically learning on the job. Right, he was thrown into the deep end of the pool and said, "Hey, you're gonna figure out and you're gonna learn how to swim," because he didn't go through spring camp. He wasn't initially committed to BYU. Right, he came in after that spring portal, and so you really only get fall camp to kind of work and figure out BYU and figure out the offense. But at the same time, right, you also get thrown into this situation where the starting quarterback goes to Tulane and then you're all of a sudden starting. So I think that's just going to come with the growing pains of allowing Bear Bachmeier to grow.
Which makes it all the more impressive that he was able to win the starting quarterback job at BYU. But I'll tell you what, man, I think part of the reason, and I'm obviously not in the coaches' meetings and I don't know what their thought process was, but the thing with Bear that is so tantalizing, it's a big word there, but it's the potential. Like you've got this kid. I just remembered my favorite part of the broadcast. They're talking about Bear Bachmeier being built like a fullback and they zoomed in on Chase Roberts' butt. they were meaning to show Bear Bachmeier, thick thighs, thick caboose, right? And the cameraman for some reason zoomed in on Chase Roberts and he's like this skinny dude. And then it finds Bear and he is a very, very big person. And even as an 18-year-old, and we saw it with his touchdown run where he lowered his shoulder and just trucked the dude into the end zone. Not only that, but his arm, man. We saw some arm talent tonight that we didn't really get to see last week, whether it was on some touch on some deep balls or putting some zip on some shorter passes. I think he's got a cannon and he's a very big, very strong dude. And as long as he can continue to progress and stick with it and stick with Coach Aaron Roderick, I think Bear Bachmeier has a ton of potential. But guess who's joining us now? It is Alex Curie, host of JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Alex, what are your initial thoughts and reaction to this game?
Well, I think if you're watching, the biggest reaction was that the defense had a phenomenal night. Those guys are on a different level. Bear is a true freshman. And I think that was the vibe. And Kalani tried to downplay it, I think, a little bit in his post game with, just kind of mentioning, hey, I think we just have to get him more reps of being in front and just getting him comfortable back there. But he wasn't comfortable when there was pressure, and there were a couple of miscues there. They put him in opportunities to have success, though. I mean, he had I think the Chase Roberts throw that he had, that was open a few times tonight. And that one across the middle there, they were challenging BYU to throw it to him. They were saying, hey, we're going to take Chase one-on-one a couple of times, and they did it. and he put it right on the money on that last one. I think that's a huge kind of confidence builder. I was walking out of the stadium a few minutes ago, and he's taking pictures with people and signing autographs and stuff. And so, and, you know, I think that the offense got too cute at times, right? Like, I mean, and
With the
that's a little
2-point
bit
conversion.
Well, the 2-point conversion was a bad decision. Like, and that wasn't them when that was also something we asked Kalani about in the post game. And he said that's an on-field decision that they made. So whatever they see, they make that decision based off of that. Yeah. And I'm sure they saw something, but like, as soon as they were setting up there, what I saw was definitely that Carson Ryan. I was like, well, if he snaps it to himself, he's not going to run it. He's got like 3 guys right in front of him. Like, your job as the defense, when a team runs that swinging gate like that, you've got to just make sure you have the numbers, right? And you have to match up the numbers, put the guys right there. And they did. They had him covered up, and it was a poor decision, they said, on the field. And it was a little, and Kalani took the blame for it, but I think they can do cute stuff like that. But how about kick the extra point? You know what I mean? Like,
take the point, man.
Yeah, he said that too. I mean, he said as much in that sense. And so I think it was for Bear, though, going back to it, because that's, I think, a lot of the concern that people had going away. But how many interceptions did he throw? None. How many fumbles did he have? None. And that's with some more pressure. That's with like his first legitimate big boy sack that he took in the backfield too. He's a big body, you know. He ran over a couple of guys to get in the end zone. I thought that was kind of fun. And there were just things that were not really, the offense was just clunky, right? I mean, just think about how they got to those first 14 points. It was a weird way they got there. That was also brought up by Kalani. It's just like, we got to these points weird. We had, you know, a touchdown, a missed conversion, a safety, a couple field goals. Yeah. The normal conventional way to get to 14. You know, it felt a little bit clunky, but the defense is, my goodness, they're lights out, and they're getting a lot of guys in there. The initial thought is that JoJo Phillips, if you saw him on the sideline, he had a sling on, and he was out of his uniform in the second half. He's going to miss some time. They don't know exactly what it is. They don't know the nature of it, but it was like Kalani, I think, just sort of said, without knowing too much about it, that he'll probably be missing some time. And I guess Pua coming back in was a good news situation for him. I thought it was going to be a bad deal, but they cleared him. He came back in the game later. So from an injury perspective, they're going to be dealing with a couple things, but overall, you come away from this and you go, our defense shut this thing down. I will tell you that there was an interaction in the press box where it was made known that Jay Hill was not happy with that 3 points that they put up on the board. And, you know, in true Jay Hill competitive fashion, these guys don't like to give up a point. And they felt like they could have ended the night on negative rushing yards, which they were on pace to do, but they've given up 14 in 2 games. Like, that's pretty darn good. And the defense is legit. I think that people are finding that out. There's a level. Jack Kelly's on a different level. Isaiah Glasgow's on a different level. Keanu Tanavasa has changed that defensive line. He is an absolute problem. And he mentioned Justin Kirkland and hopefully getting him back soon. And so I think that's signs of good things to come. And you've got young guys that are showing up. So overall, my impressions are, great. You left a lot of points on the field if you're BYU from an offensive perspective, but Bear didn't make those bad decisions enough that he turned the ball over, which is what we talked about on our show today, right? It's like, just don't throw picks and don't fumble. And he didn't do that. He got through the game enough, and, you know, beating Stanford at home on your second start by 3 touchdowns is not a bad way to get things going in your career.
Not a bad way to get going at all, but to me, what really stood out from this game and from the offense is the missed opportunities, right? The defense comes up with big plays, big returns on INTs, recovering fumbles and setting up the offense with short field, in short territory, in Stanford territory, and you're not able to capitalize. Is that something that's concerning, or are we just taking that as growing pains from a true freshman quarterback?
It's not just growing pains from the freshman quarterback. It's a really good point, because I think that there was some play calling that got a little bit too over thoughtful. You know what I mean? Like, there were times when LJ Martin is driving you down, and then you go away from it and you start to do these throws around the edges. And frankly, too, the holding inside on that jet sweep that they got the touchdown on, the subsequent, I think it was a false start penalty. This is your stadium. You can't get rattled by the noise and have a 5-yard, procedure penalty, a pre-snap penalty in your own, like on the half-yard line. That killed it because they weren't just giving them 5 yards, every time. They did it. They did against Portland State, but Stanford, shocking, has better athletes right on the field. And so the good news was it's exactly the way you kind of saw this thing planned out, which is Portland State was a low level test. Stanford is a P4 opponent, but they are way down, and it was a good time for them to get up. But you saw better athletes. You saw more pressure. They called better schemes to be able to get to Bear Bachmeier. There were a couple of uncovered, blown assignment sacks or pressures in Bear's face coming straight up the middle that were not being picked up and not called right by that offensive line. So there are some things in there that everybody's got to work on. Bear's going to take the brunt of it, but I think a lot of people looked at it and went, okay, a very freshman performance, He was just over 50%, I think, on completions. It wasn't a ton of yardage, but he had a couple of bright spots there, and it was really the second half. He had a way better second half than he did first half, and so I think that's at least good from that perspective. Can you please hand the ball off to LJ Martin more? I wish that guy could touch the ball more, but second week in a row that he's over 100 yards, I think he got to the 110 mark, and he was actually at 80 at the end of the first quarter, and so then you think, okay, there's some yards that were probably left out there on the field, but I get it, they were mixing it up. So the stalls were not just on Bear. It was on some play calling that was a little bit sketchy, I think, and then bad penalties that killed him as well inside that red zone.
And some mistakes from everybody else, too. I mean, Chase Roberts with the killer drop on the 1-yard line. That's so uncharacteristic from him. But, Alex, we appreciate your time. Awesome insight from down there in Provo. I'm sure you're going to go celebrate downtown, right?
Is there a downtown here still? I didn't remember if there was or not. I went to school here. I don't remember there being a downtown. They tell me it's revitalized, but something tells me a lot of this town. Like myself, as an old person, I am going to freaking bed, you guys. And you too, darn it.
We will. Awesome, as soon as we wrap, we're going to bed.
Thanks for your help, Alex. We appreciate it, man.
See you guys later, man.
See you later.
Thanks, Alex.
That is Alex Curie. You can catch him Monday through Friday on JJ and Alex from 3 to 7 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. And it is nice to get some perspective from somebody down, who's down there at the press box, at the field, because, we see things differently on the TV broadcast than what he sees in person, but he's, reaffirming what everybody saw, right? I think everybody was at fault for BYU's offense looking clunky, leaving some points on the field. I think the play calling was a little questionable. I think the quarterback play was a little questionable. And then the skill players made some errors in the offensive line as well. So it's literally, it takes 11 men to win, and it takes 11 men to look clunky. But again, at the end of the day, you win 27-3.
Right. I think I can't wait to get Waylon Lapuaho back out there, man. When it comes to the pressures, when it comes to stuff like that, I'm not. It doesn't come down to just one guy, but he is such a leader on that team. He is such a leader on that offensive line. And right now he's a big miss, and so I'm excited, and I'm excited to see when he's able to get back out there, where he belongs on that BYU offensive line.
Let's get to head coach Kalani Sitake, and unfortunately, because of policies and guidelines, we can't play all of Kalani's post-game presser, but we can play a little bit of it. So let's get to Kalani and hear some of his thoughts from just barely in the post-game.
Pleased with a lot of things that we saw, specifically with the defense. Things got kind of rough at the end. I think we had some mistakes here and there, but overall, the guys are just trying to stretch too much, trying to make the big play themselves on defense. And I think offensively, that same thing was happening. But a lot of the issues were just mistakes on our end, and penalties that get you out of in bad field position. And then, but overall, just happy with the win. Obviously, looking at Stanford. They obviously had an extra week to prep for us, and hopefully we can take advantage of the extra week ourselves and get ready for East Carolina. But they did some really good things on defense, threw us off a little bit. They're a little bit more familiar with our quarterback, and so we just got to control the things that we control. With all that being said, happy that we were able to win the game, and didn't ever feel like we were stressed in the game completely. So, just I have to look at some of the decisions I made as a head coach, whether we went for the right that fourth down. I think it was 4th and 5 or so. Just kind of stretching it. We stalled on that drive. Probably could take that one back, and then just some other thoughts, like when they had the penalty for 12 men on the field. That would have put them on the 1.5, maybe 1 3/4. Maybe we should have gone for it. If you don't get it, then at least you have great field position, and the defense already got a safety. It was interesting. The first 14 points are kind of weird, 6 points without a conversion, a safety, and I think 2 field goals got us 14-0. And then the second half was a touchdown and 2 field goals. And thought about letting Will kick the 64-yarder. He was ready for it, but we stopped the clock way too early. If we would have just let the clock get down to 3 seconds, maybe we could have done that. But it's all right. With Sam as our punter, I think he can pin the ball with his accurate kicks, and we're able to flip the field quite a bit with him doing that. So overall, just pleased with what we saw from the team. Pleased we got the win, but we know we need to improve and get better for next week. But I want to wish Stanford the best of luck the rest of the way. We felt like they made things really difficult for us, and we're just going to look forward, try to learn from this, and look forward to the next one.
There you go. That is BYU head coach Kalani Sitake. Partial some of his thoughts after the 27-3 victory over Stanford. Anything really stand out to you there?
No, I think he kind of hits the nail on the head with kind of what we saw as well too. But he does bring up a good point, right? You have an extra week to get ready for East Carolina, just like Stanford had an extra week to get ready for BYU, and I think that could be really helpful, especially in a game like this, in moments like this where the offense maybe wasn't as productive as maybe you wanted it to be. That allows you that extra time and that extra week to prepare yourself, and to prepare yourself for what's going to be a tough road test at East Carolina. It'll be Bear Bachmeier's first road game, and that's something that I think we'll all be looking at, and something that we'll all be very curious to see how he handles his first away environment.
East Carolina, by the way, won 56-3 today against the Campbell Fighting Camels.
Who?
Good question. But yeah, I mean, 56-3 is that's no small feat. That
right.
is an impressive win. So that has been the game all along that I think will be the key game for BYU, because we knew that Portland State should have been an easy game. We knew Stanford was probably going to be a little tougher, but should be a win for BYU. It really feels like East Carolina is the turning point for this season. I feel like that is when we're going to know, okay, how high can BYU's ceiling really be with Bear Bachmeier versus, is the storyline of this season going to be a true freshman holding them back?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Again, his first road environment. I'm curious to see how he'll handle it. A defense who will probably, now obviously you have 2 games of film, so they'll probably be a little bit more prepared for Bear Bachmeier and this BYU offense. And then, of course, just how does that true freshman handle being on the road for the first time?
Yeah, and that's always a tough task, and it's always tough being on the road, but you got to remember, going from the Mountain Time Zone all the way to East Carolina, that is tough. And we will see when the game time is announced. I'm assuming that's going to come out tomorrow afternoon-ish, right? But you're hoping it's a later game, because the worst thing is to play an early game all the way across the country, because you get over there and you lose some time. That's when the jet lag hits you really bad. So that's tough. And that really could play a factor in that East Carolina game. But it's going to be a test. It is. It's going to be a test for BYU in the offense. But again, it's also huge that they have a bye. So I totally just realized, sorry, it's late. That game time probably won't come out for another week. But we will see. The bye is huge.
Yes, the bye is huge. And I think, Kalani's talking that coaching staff do a phenomenal job of getting those guys prepared. I'm sure they'll take extra time this week to make sure that the offense is firing a little bit better once they head to East Carolina.
All right, we got to hit offensive and defensive MVP. Before you give me your votes, though, I want to tell everybody to chime in, right? Let us know who your offensive and defensive MVP was. Anybody watching or listening along on Facebook, on YouTube, on X, hit the comment section. Let us know. Tweet directly at us at C Esparza Sports, at Napoles Alex, or simply at KSL Sports. So, Alex, who are your picks? Let's do offensive first.
Ooh, offensive. I'll go with the easy one. It's going to be, of course, number 4, LJ Martin, 18 carries, 110 yards. Didn't get the touchdown of the night, but that's okay because, again, it's a conversation we had a little bit a couple segments ago. I really felt like that big 47-yard run from LJ Martin really sparked this BYU offense to really start moving the ball and start getting going because they were a little slow coming out of the gate. And LJ Martin does what LJ Martin does. Like Alex Thierry said, give him the ball more. LJ Martin will be my offensive MVP. And then for the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to go Satsuala. Obviously had the safety, had the INT to basically seal the game. Satsuala, young guy, again, from coming out of Bountiful, an exciting in-state prospect. Glad he's here, still balling out in the state of Utah. Satsuala will be my defensive MVP.
That's a good pick. I was going to go Jack Kelly. He had a phenomenal game, right? 5 tackles, a sack, and 2.5 tackles for loss. But honestly, Satsuala, like anytime you get a safety, I love safeties, man. That's such a big play. And then you throw in the pick on top of that. And I have no problem with Satsuala over Jack Kelly. Lute Welch chimes in with a thumbs up. Thanks for the comment, Lute. And then Justin Jackson, he says LJ for his offensive MVP. Love it, man. And you know what? As far as the more carries for LJ, I like a healthy number. You want to see him get around 20. I don't know if I want to see him getting around 25 or 30, man. I like 18 to 22-ish. I think that's because you got to remember this is a dude that's been banged up his first couple of years, and you want to do as much as you can to preserve that. So again, on a game like today where you don't need LJ out there shredding up the defense, wearing them down, it's nice to bring in Moa and other guys. So maybe when BYU faces some tougher opponents later on in the year, you'll see LJ get more carries and later into the game. But again, like it's a delicate balance, man. You want to keep these guys healthy for the full 12-game slate. So we'll see what that number looks like.
And I think LJ, he's a guy that you need healthy, right? He's a guy that he's a guy you don't want getting banged up, especially right. That's when it comes to LJ Martin. Everybody talks about last season and him dealing with the injuries, and maybe not necessarily heading into the season 100% because he was banged up, and when he's 100%, he is one of the best running backs in the Big 12, and he's a guy that you are going to want at 100% every single week to make sure that you put yourself in a position to succeed in the Big 12, right? He's a big part of this offense. He's going to be a big part of BYU's success in moving the ball, in moving the chains, and so he's a guy that you want to make sure is 100%. Don't overuse him. 18 to 20 carries, I think is perfectly fine. But once you start, getting into the higher numbers, the injury, there's always going to be that concern in the back of your head.
2 games in for the BYU Cougars, they have outscored their opponents 96-3. So close to getting the second bagel of the season tonight, but overwhelmingly positive. And I know that today we are very nitpicky on that BYU offense, but again, 27-3 is a great score. And they came out and frankly won both sides of the ball. And that is as much as you can ask for with the situation that they have. Then you've got the bye week next week before you hit the road at East Carolina.
You know what's even more better than 27-3, Christian?
What's that? Are you going to tell me the yardage?
You're 2-0.
Oh, 2-0. Okay. Yeah.
2-0. That's the most important thing. That's the most important thing. And you have this next week to fix and work out the kinks on offense and really hopefully start getting going against East Carolina.
Yeah, man. I hope that JoJo Phillips is not out too long. Obviously, we didn't get to hear the full Kalani Sitake post-game press conference. We're going to have that posted as soon as we can on our podcast page. But Alex Carey was in the press conference room, so he was kind of paraphrasing what Kalani said, and it sounds like JoJo is going to miss some time. We will see what that looks like. He's a dude that I was really excited to see. We didn't see much of Hagan tonight on offense. Tay Nakua probably going to be back after the bye, so there is some depth there at the BYU receiver room, and then of course Chase Roberts at the top. Parker Kingston's going to contribute as well as Tiger. So, but I think JoJo was really primed to be your probable number 3 receiver at the lowest. So that's going to hurt missing him, but there's dudes that are ready to step up.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important thing, right? Is the fact that, while we did anticipate JoJo Phillips to be a big part of this offense, I think you have that depth to come in, step up, and fill up that role. Cody Hagan, I think, is a perfect guy to come in and can step in and make a difference. We really haven't seen Tiger Bachmeier on the offensive side of the ball yet. Obviously, had the return, but we can potentially see a little bit more of Tiger Bachmeier at the wide receiver position if JoJo Phillips happens to be out for an extended period.
Dude, the fans want to see it, man. Let's see it. Let's see
Give me the Tiger. Yeah, exactly, man. Give me the Tiger Bear connection. I'm waiting for it.
They've got the chemistry. They've been growing up throwing passes to each other since they were little kids out in the front yard. Like,
exactly.
Let's get them out on the field. They can do it. So I want to see that at East Carolina for sure. Any closing thoughts, Alex?
No. Again, I just hope that this bye week is used to fix and work out those kinks on offense, and then hopefully we can come out to BYU can come out to a much faster and a much quicker start against East Carolina, and then hopefully we'll be back for that post-game show, and hopefully we're not canned after Christian's terrible animal joke from earlier today.
I thought it was all right. Yeah, I mean the clunky offense I think is obviously the big story. So that's going to be, how do you turn red zone trips into 7 instead of 3? That's going to be the focus of this bye week for BYU. We'll see how they work on things, and then 2 weeks from today, we'll see what that looks like at East Carolina. So no game next week for the Cougs, early bye week, and then we'll catch you 2 weeks from today. Thanks for listening. It is the Cougar Postgame Show. I'm Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles with me. Big thanks to Alma Bean producing back at the studio. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Cougar Postgame Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.